Hi, I'm Selena. I'm from Annie's Bookstop of Worcester, and we're here with Josh Funk, who is a children's book author. He does picture books, and his latest book is called Short and Sweet, and it's part of the picture book series of of Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast. And I'm going to introduce him now, and I'd like you to say a little bit about yourself, and and one thing I'd like you to say is how you got started.
Absolutely. Hi, I'm Josh. If anybody has questions out there, feel free to put them in the chat. I am an author, but actually, I'm really a software engineer. That's my day job. I write code during the day, and on the evenings and weekends, I write picture books. About a little more than 9 years ago, my kids were 3 and 6 years old, and they were. I was reading a lot of them, and I thought, I want to try to do this. And so I did. I started writing picture books that summer of 2011. I wrote my first really, really terrible picture book manuscript, and it was awful. And then my wife actually suggested I go take a class just at the local adult education center in the town that I lived in. Had a class taught by a published author about how to write for children, and I signed up for it, and I went, and I learned a lot. Started going to writing conferences, which is where I think we met in the first
Mhm.
place,
Yep.
Selena. And yeah, and so a few years later, I ended up getting, writing better stories. And my first book was published in the fall of 2015. And it's this book, Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast. And I'll read it to you right now. And then afterwards, I will share the newest book in the series, which is called Short and Sweet. So this is Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast, and it is written by me and illustrated by Brendan Kearney. Deep in the fridge and behind the green peas, way past the tofu and left of the cheese, up in the corner and back by a roast, sat Lady Pancake beside Sir French Toast. The leftover friends were as close as could be until they heard news from their neighbor, Miss Brie. The syrup is almost completely all gone. A single drop's left, just a drop, she went on. The last drop is mine, Lady Pancake conversed, but French Toast replied, not if I get there first. Like that he was off and the race had begun, with Pancake behind, breaking into a run. Through broccoli forest, past orange juice fountain, they climbed to the top of Potato Mash Mountain. Pushing and shoving, they fought for the lead. Idea for this book from my kids. I came down for breakfast one day and I asked them, I said, what do you guys want for breakfast? And one of them said, I want pancakes. And the other one said, I want French toast. And I was like, guys, I am a terrible cook. One time I even burned their peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So while they were eating their burnt waffles, I thought that might make a fun idea for a story, a pancake and a French toast arguing about something. And I thought, what would they argue about? And so I asked my kids, I said, and one of them said syrup. And I thought, brilliant, of course they'll argue about syrup. But unfortunately, I can't remember which one of them said it. So now they argue about who came up with the idea for the ending. So it started with two kids arguing about breakfast, and it continues today with them arguing about who came up with the ending. Now, I don't know who out there is on team Lady Pancake or team Sir French Toast, but I would be on team Baron Von Waffle. I would be the dad who, if there was one drop of syrup left in the fridge, I would sneak it before my kids, who were arguing about who should get it first, would get a chance to have it. So when I wrote this book, I thought Brendan Kearney's illustrations were amazing. I loved them. And as soon as I saw sketches, I thought I need to write more about this. And so even without talking to the publisher, I said, I'm going to write a story anyway. Hopefully they like it and they want to print it. So I wrote The Case of the Stinky Stench. And in this story, Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast, I don't know if anyone has ever opened their fridge and something smelled kind of funny. It's always hard to figure out what is it. And it's usually the thing you least suspect, like it's a carrot that had been there too long or something. It's not a carrot in this book, but in their fridge, something stinks. And Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast have to help Inspector Croissant try to figure out what is the stinky stench in their fridge. And so the first book was a bit of a race. The second one was a mystery. Now, I'll spoil one part about this. It's not Baron Von Waffle. even though they think it is at first. And the third book, Mission Defrostable. This one is more of an action adventure spy thriller. And I don't know if you remember, at the very end of the first book, Brendan Kearney, now I didn't tell him to do this or anything, he just did it. He put Baron von Waffle peeking out of the freezer in this last page of Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast. And I thought, you know what? He must know his way around the freezer. So when something starts to freeze over the entire fridge and Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast have to try to figure out what the problem is, they need his help and they ask for his help to help figure it out. And in the end of this book, they become friends. And so that's what you need to know for this fourth book, which, as you can see, I sort of switched up the genre with all of them. The first was a race, the second was a mystery, the third was an action adventure spy thriller. What's this one gonna be? It's called Short and Sweet, and it is brand new, and it just came out. And if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments. So, once again, illustrated by Brendan Kearney, Short and Sweet. Still in the fridge and behind the Swiss Chard, in their apartment on Crust Boulevard, prepping a tea party ready to host, stood Lady Pancake beside Sir French Toast. Just as they finished the boiling and baking, Pancake said, "All of my muscles are aching." "Also," said Toast, "my complexion is pale." Pancake then screamed, "Are we both going stale?" The duo was shocked by their newly made friend. Waffle went on. Oh, sorry, I skipped a line. "Baron von Waffle," their guest said, "you're gruesome. I've never seen such a hideous twosome." The duo was shocked by their newly made friend. Waffle went on, "I don't mean to offend. In fact, it so happens there might be a cure. Check out Professor Biscotti's brochure. Starting to mildew or curdle or crumble, don't sit around and complain, pout and grumble. Try out my patented de-spoiling ray. Feel fresh and young again. Visit today." Does anybody know what a biscotti is? It's kind of like a dry almond cookie. Sometimes they have chocolate along the edges. Off to Professor Biscotti's they strode, down to her lab out by Artichoke Road. "Greetings," she said as she tightened a gear. "Here for de-spoiling? Terrific, sit here." Nervously, Pancake, and you can see that is the end. And so this book, I actually got the idea for this book because after I had been reading the first three for so long, I had kids ask me questions like, how are they still alive? In the first page of the first book, you said they were already leftovers. How are they not spoiled by now? And I thought, you know what? I should address that. And so that is what made me write Short and Sweet. And I always like to change up the genre. It was a race and a mystery and an action adventure spy thriller in the first three. And then for this one, I thought, what should I do? And so I kind of thought that this was sort of a sci-fi comedy like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids or The Absent-Minded Professor. And then the more that I read it and the more that I talked about it, once it was finished, I realized it was actually also sort of like a magical body swap, you know, kind of like Freaky Friday or Big. And so it's sort of both combined, I think, a magical comedy sci-fi body swap. So that's kind of how I think of this. But yeah, so this is Short and Sweet. And if anybody has any questions, or Selena, if you have questions that you'd like to ask, feel free to put them in the chat, or there's only a few of us, so you can, you're welcome to unmute yourselves.
Okay. Dana or Renita, do you have any questions? I don't hear anything.
No. Say if you were to do an activity with the children regarding the book, what would you make it out to be?
Well, I'm not a teacher. I'm married to a teacher, so I know how hard teachers work and how smart they are. So I don't want to suggest that anyone that I could do their job. But I do think that the way that I've seen people use the book, first of all, they're on my website, joshfunkbooks.com. I'm Josh Funk Books everywhere. all one word, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. But on joshfunkbooks.com, there is a Stuff for Kids page. And on that page, there are free downloadable, printable activity kits with coloring pages and word searches and mazes for a whole bunch of my books. The ones that you see behind me, as well as several of the others, including the Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast books. And so there's definitely some stuff for the younger kids to do there, word searches, crossword puzzles, things like that. And then one of the things that I really like to do, and I'm proud of, is that I've used a lot of big words in these books. Sometimes I've even had to fight for the big words. In the first book, Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast, in this one, there's the page where Pancake rappelled down a rope of linguine. And in this one, so she rappels down a rope of linguine, and it actually is, it looks more like linguine, not, so I mean fettuccine rather than linguine, but we won't get into that. But yeah, so in this one, the copy editor, not the editor who helps me write the stories, but the copy editor who checks for grammar and consistency, and it's an important job. She thought that rappelled was too big of a word for a picture book, and I thought about it. I tried to replace it with a different word. The rhythm didn't really work because it's a rhyming picture book. The rhythm has to be perfect, and there was really no other perfect word or way to say this. And this was the best way. And so I fought to keep it, and I won. And I've had a ton of people compliment me on this word repelled. And now repelled, it's not repel, like to push something away, but rappel. It means to climb down a rope, on the side of a mountain or something. But it's a word that you can learn by reading these books. And I try to throw in loads of big words throughout my books. And so that's definitely something that you can kind of pick out some of the big words, look them up and understand but you can understand in context what it means. She's climbing down a rope of linguine. So saying rappelled down a rope of linguine, it's pretty obvious what's going on just from the picture. And if you really want to look up the exact definition, most people have, you can look up in the online internet, somewhere dictionary, there's probably an easy way to do it. Or most likely, the way I think about it is that picture books are meant to be read by an adult to a child, at least the ones that I write, because they have big words. The adult will probably know the word or be able to explain it. And maybe the kids will figure it out from this book. Maybe they'll hear the word repelled and then kind of know what it means because they saw it happen in pictures. And then I also like to use puns sparingly. I don't like to go for the low-hanging fruit, pun intended, because they're food books, get it? There's a lot of food puns out there, and I try not to use the obvious ones. One of my favorites is in the case of the Stinky Stench, which I didn't read. There's actually two of my favorite jokes in this book. So there's one part here where, "Great," said Croissant as he tripped by mistake. It's a steak who's a lady. So he tripped by mistake. Anyway, that's one of my favorites. And another one, a couple pages later, they're searching for a stinky fish in Corn Chowder Lake, but it seemed the red herring was just a bad clue. They were looking for this red herring, but a red herring in a mystery literally means a bad clue. It's a misleading clue. It's a clue. I think it stems from the fact that they used to smoke herring to cause.
Oh, I can't believe I didn't record that part. Oops, never mind. But I am recording. I can't believe I missed all that.
It's okay. Oops. I'll visit again for my next book.
Okay. Appreciate that. I can't believe I missed that. Oh, well. Do we have another question?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Can I read my book that I wrote?
Can you read me the first page and tell me what it's about?
Yes.
Go for it.
It says The Good and Bad School Day by Zaina.
Ooh. And what's it about?
It's about people doing good stuff and people doing bad stuff.
That sounds like a really cool book. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me today.
I do have some more questions for
Oh,
you.
all right, sure, go for it.
Okay. Did you have any help along the way with your writing, with like people or groups?
Oh yeah, I mean, I have a lot of friends. One of the most important things to do that I cut myself off in a weird place. I have a lot of friends. Sorry, I was not bragging. It's important to share your writing with your friends, and I have a lot of friends that I share my writing with, because the getting feedback from your friends is critical, especially negative feedback. Sometimes it's important to hear what they like, but also what they don't like, so that you can make it better. And so it's yeah, that's a really important part of writing, is sharing your writing with other people. And if you're writing stories, one of the most fun things to do if you're a writer is to just write for your friends, write for your family, put on a puppet show, put on a play, write a song or a poem, and read it to people. That is really the most enjoyable thing, is to see other people experiencing what you write, and reading it, or listening to you read it, because that's a lot of fun to do, and try to make people feel something. Try to make them feel some sort of emotion. I like to write fun, silly things, like pancakes and French toast racing through a fridge. But sometimes I like to write write things that are gross as well, which can be funny. I have this one poem about my cat that poops all over the house, and so that grossed out my wife and made my kids laugh. Some people like to read things that scare them. I'm sorry about the light, by the way. The sun is coming right through my window, and I don't have a blind that can. It's the weird time of day in the fall in New England, and so I have some people like scary stories, like Goosebumps, and some people like to read, like adults, like I said, books about people falling in love. Ew. But yeah, any kind of emotion that you can make somebody feel something. That's really fun to. That's what you want to try to aim for in your writing, and sharing with friends is important. And it takes a whole team of people to make a book. Like I said, there's me, there's the illustrator, but there's the whole team at the publisher that's working on how to, somebody to design the cover, and somebody to figure out like the gold foil, what that should look like. It looks like it's gold, but it's actually orange, because when you put it against the background of these colors, and somebody had to test all these different colors of foil to figure out how to make that book. That was the designer. There's a whole team of people that figure out how to market it. Some people have to go to Annie's Bookstop, and they're salespeople, and they say, hey, do you want to carry this book? Here's a list of all the books we're making. Here's what we think the people who shop at Annie's Bookstop will like. And those are sales reps. There's a whole team of people that help make a book. And then there's you, Selena, who has to sell the book to customers. I mean, not has to. I mean, it's your job. That's what you do. And so selling the book to customers you're a part of making this book and getting this book into readers' hands. So, and educators as well. And it doesn't stop. Everyone is a part of making this book.
So how many books have you written totally?
Well, my 14th and 15th books come out on the same day, actually, on October 27th. So in about 10 days from now. But I've probably written about 100 books. I've probably written about 100, and they're not all going to turn into books, of course. A lot of them are practice books, just like how, if you play an instrument or a sport, you can't just be like, hey, here's a violin, go have a concert. Or here's a basketball, go play a game. You have to learn how to play, learn the rules. You have to practice. And so it's the same with writing. The more that you practice, the better you're going to get. And some of my books, some of my stories, they're just practice books. They're not going to turn into published books, but some of them are those books that are the games or the concerts and things like that. And they do turn into published books. So yeah, but 15 are going to be published as of a week from Tuesday. And I have, I think, 4 more now that I've signed contracts for, and another 3 more that I haven't signed contracts for, and a bunch more that I've written that I have, that are in progress, and who knows. But yeah, and every single one has its own story. Every single book I write has a reason for it to be written, and I spend days, weeks, months working on it, and thinking about every word that goes into it. I mean, picture books are short. They only have 500 words, give or take, in them. So I make sure that every word, every syllable is the perfect one.
It's true, yeah. So, how long does it usually take you to write a book?
So now that I have some experience and I've been doing this for 9 years, I probably could, if I plan enough, I usually plan my books out in advance. I think of the idea and I start taking notes and thinking about what the story might be, what might happen throughout the story, how it's going to start, how it's going to end, some things that might happen along the way, maybe a few good lines. If I've done all of that planning, I could probably write a book in a first draft in like a week or so. And then I would share it with my friends and revise it and edit it, and then share it with some other friends and revise it and edit it. Maybe I would finish like the text of a book in a couple months. But that's only because I've done this a lot. It used to take, upwards of a year or more for me. And that's just to finish writing the words. Then we have to find a publisher that wants to publish it. Once you find a publisher that wants to publish it, it's usually at least about 2 years before the book comes out. So for my very first book, this one, it took me exactly to the day 3 years and 5 months, almost 3.5 years from the day I had the idea for this book until the book came out. And so that's probably about normal for most books. It's at least 2 years from the time that the publisher says they want to make it, in most cases. There are times when they rush it for various reasons, like if they really want to have it out, if it's a summer book and they want to have it out in the spring for the upcoming summer, and they don't want to wait a whole nother year for it to get to the summer again, they might, find a way to make it happen faster. And then, or same with the holiday season, if they really want it out by October for the holiday season, they might find a way to make it happen faster. I did have one book that was from the time that I started writing it until the time it came out was about 11 months, which is insanely fast for a picture book. But yeah, usually it's at least about 2 years.
Wow. Let's see. Do you ever work on more than one book at a time?
Yeah, constantly. And part of it's because they're in all different stages. So for example, I'm working on publicizing Short and Sweet right now because that's my newest one. I have 2 new books that are coming out in a couple weeks, so I'm sort of preparing for that. So I'm working on those. I mean, they're done. They've been done for months, but I'm still working on them because that's part of the job. I have one book that the illustrator and I can't talk about any of these unfortunately yet, but I have one book that the illustrator just started working on. And I haven't seen any of the sketches, but he had a question about something that caused the editor to come to me and say, we need to rewrite this section. So I spent a lot of time last week doing that, while I was also writing the first draft of another book and brainstorming the first draft of another book. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm always working on multiple things. At some point I'll get the art for one of my upcoming books and I'll need to share it I'll need to give feedback on that. So even though I'm not really writing, I'm still working on a book at different times. I mean, in any given day, I might be working on 3 to 5 different books for various reasons.
And sometimes when you get the art, does it sometimes make you want to change your wording? And
oh yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of times where something is shown in the picture that explained something I was saying, so I don't need to say what I was saying anymore. It's a little trickier when the books are in rhyme because you can't just cut out a phrase or even a line because you have to cut 2, and if the other one you're cutting is important to say, you have to be careful with that. But there's a lot of times, or the illustrator comes up with something cool that I want to change some of my words too. I mean, illustrators, look, I don't know how to do the art, but the illustrators do. It's their job. So the fact that they, they're smarter than me when it comes to that. So usually the only feedback I'm giving to illustrators, and I don't give it to the illustrator directly, I give it to my editor who then sends it around eventually, if they want to. They don't even have to share my feedback. It's fine. But the only feedback I usually give is like, hey, we should change the text now because they already did something better in the art, or like we should move this text to the next page because it'll make better for better pacing or something like that. That's really all it is. I can't tell the artist how to do better. I mean, which kind of makes sense. How would I? I'm not an artist.
And you have another question here from Dana.
Oh, have I heard from my readers? What kind of feedback do I get from them? Oh yeah, I mean, usually they're pretty enthusiastic about the books. People haven't told me, at least the ones that don't like my books haven't really come out and said, hey, I don't like your books. So it's pretty positive. Yeah, no, kids seem to, I mean, the Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast series, the 4 books as a whole have sold somewhere in like 100-something thousand copies. So I think it's doing all right. Yeah, it's not a bestseller, but it's the word of mouth is there. So anyway.
Also, are you a plot writer or a character writer? Do you write your plot first, or the characters come to you?
I don't know. I think that for me, yeah, the setting or the characters is usually what comes up first. I think it probably mix and match. For me, it's not. I don't really struggle with one versus the other. A lot of my books have been sequels, so I already have the characters, and I need to come up with the plot to fit them in. So I think I only have I have 4 different series of books that have at least 2 books in them, and then I have 4 other books that are just one book. So I think I would say I normally come up with the characters first, like Pyrosaurs that came to me in a dream. So yeah.
Henry just joined us. Hi, Henry. And I have to ask, is it okay if I have to ask your mother if it's okay if his face appears on YouTube? You're on mute.
Is it being recorded?
I'm sorry?
Is it being recorded?
Yes, it is.
All right, I'm gonna take his picture off.
Okay. But it did, the first part is, you already got him on there, so it is going to be on.
That's okay.
Okay. Okay, great. Sorry, Josh, go ahead.
Oh no, that was all.
Okay, I do have another question. Could you tell us about the fun sheets that you have that come with your books?
Oh yeah, well on my website, joshfunkbooks.com, there are downloadable coloring sheets that you can print out for free. You can get them on my Stuff for Kids page. And so I've been very fortunate. The publishers have put together a bunch of those. Sometimes the illustrator has made the coloring pages by stripping out some of the color from the art. Especially when they're done digitally. And yeah, so feel free to head over to joshfunkbooks.com and go to my Stuff for Kids tab, and you'll see a bunch of stuff. There's songs, there's little videos, there's character cards, and there's downloadable coloring pages and that you're welcome to print out for free.
That's great. Yeah, they're wonderful. I just wanted to let people know about them because they're great.
Thank you.
Okay. And let's see, I had one more question. Okay. No, I guess I've asked most of my questions.
Well,
Does
thank you.
anybody
Thanks
else have
so
any
much.
more questions? Anybody? Henry, do you have any questions?
Who is my favorite author? That's a tough question because I'm friends with a lot of the people on my bookshelf now. So when you become an author, you end up meeting people at conferences and at various places. And especially with social media, I know a lot of my favorite authors. One of my favorite books is The Curious Garden by Peter Brown, and I have had the chance to hang out with him. We built a bonfire together, or a campfire together a few years ago, and so my favorite authors are some people that I'm friends with. So it's hard to pick a favorite, but yeah, I don't know. And as far as collaborating with other authors, yeah, there's times where I've thought about writing books with some friends of mine. It's definitely possible with a picture book to write, and novels to write with others. I haven't really pursued it yet. I've started to brainstorm sometimes with a few friends, and we're like, yeah, we should write that book, but we haven't. But yeah, it's definitely possible. So yeah, usually like good friends of mine that I chat with a lot are the ones who that comes up with. So
I do have one more question. Do you edit your own books, or does your editor do most of your revisions? Do you?
oh, I mean, I edit them a ton of times before before it gets there. I mean, I revise my books anywhere from 5 to 20 different times between versions before sharing them with different critique partners and my agent, and then before it even gets to the editor, and then the editor will definitely have ways to make it better. So yeah, constantly. My favorite spot to write is well, my favorite spot to write was the public library that I used to go to, but yeah, I haven't been going there much lately, obviously. So right now I'm mostly right at my desk right here, and sometimes on my phone in bed when I have an idea in the middle of the night or something like that. But that's where I generally write. My favorite part of writing the books, there's two best parts of writing books and being an author. The best parts are, number one, when you see the art for the first time, and number two, just when you see the art, because it's like I had an idea for Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast, and I didn't draw these two. I didn't tell him how to draw them. Brendan is the one who came up with a chocolate mustache and a strawberry hat and whipped cream hair and a wafer crown and a cherry on top. And that's just like, it's all brilliant and it's so cool to see. My other favorite part is right now getting to read books to kids like you. That's my favorite part. So yeah, that's probably a great place to end this. So thank you so much for inviting me out today, and I hope that everyone has a great day. Order all my books from, or any books that you want from Annie's Bookstop. I'll let Selena share the website one more time. And yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Josh. It's Annie's Bookstop of Worcester, and www.anniesbooksworcester.com. Okay, thanks a lot, Josh, and we'll have you back for your next book.
Awesome.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thanks everybody for coming. Bye.